Then suddenly, the girl let out a weak cough. Relief flooded Jackson's body, but fear still gripped him. She was alive, but she was badly hurt. Carefully, he lifted her into his arms. She was so light, too light for a child her age. It was as if she hadn't eaten in days. She groaned softly, her head resting against his chest. Jackson turned to the crowd. "Somebody, help me. I need to take her to the hospital." A woman stepped forward. "There's a hospital just down the street. Take her quickly." Jackson wasted no time. He carried her to his car, gently placing her in the back seat. His hands were still shaking as he got behind the wheel and sped toward the hospital. Jackson paced the hospital hallway, his heart pounding with worry. He had been sitting in the waiting area for what felt like hours, his mind racing with thoughts. Who is this girl? Why was she alone on the street? And what if she doesn't survive? He clenched his fists, guilt weighing heavily on his chest. Then finally, the doctor stepped out of the emergency room, holding a clipboard. Jackson rushed forward. "Doctor, how is she?" he asked, his voice filled with urgency. The doctor gave a reassuring smile. "She will be fine, just minor injuries, nothing too serious." Jackson let out a deep breath he didn't even realize he was holding. Relief flooded his body like a wave. "Are you sure, doctor?" he asked again, just to be certain. The doctor nodded. "Yes, she just needs some rest and food. She looks weak, as if she hasn't eaten properly in days. But don't worry, she is not in danger." Jackson ran a hand through his hair, feeling the tension in his body finally ease. "Thank you, doctor. Thank you so much." The doctor gave him a small nod and walked away. Jackson exhaled, placing his hands on his hips. His heartbeat was finally slowing down. "She's okay. Thank God she's okay." Without wasting time, he pulled out his phone and called his mother. "Mama, I need to tell you something," he said as soon as she answered. "What is it, my son?" Madam Rebecca's voice was filled with concern. "I had an accident," Jackson said, his voice tight. "What?" his mother shouted. "Jackson, are you okay? What happened?" "It wasn't me, Mama. I hit someone with my car," he explained quickly. "A little girl ran onto the road out of nowhere. But she's fine now. The doctor said her injuries are not serious." Madam Rebecca gasped. "A little girl? Oh my God. My son, I hope she is truly okay." "Yes, Mama," Jackson reassured her. "The doctor just confirmed it. She is weak, probably from hunger, but she will be fine." His mother sighed on the other end. "You scared me, Jackson. I was about to rush to the hospital." "No, Mama, don't worry," Jackson said. "Everything is under control. The girl is getting better. The doctor said so." There was silence for a moment, then Madam Rebecca spoke again. "All right, my son, but please come home soon. Eat and relax. You need to rest after everything." Jackson smiled faintly. "I will, Mama. Thank you." As he ended the call, he glanced back toward the hospital room. The little girl was safe, but who was she? A few days had passed since the accident, and Jackson couldn't stop thinking about the little girl he had hit. Something about her felt different, like there was a deeper reason why their paths had crossed. He had never been one to believe in fate, but this time it felt like something bigger was at play. That morning, he drove back to the hospital, eager to check on her. As soon as he walked through the hospital doors, he headed straight to the doctor's office. The doctor looked up and smiled when he saw him. "Ah, Mr. Jackson, you're here." Jackson nodded quickly. "Yes, doctor. How is she? Is she doing better?" The doctor leaned back in his chair and sighed. "Physically, yes. She is recovering well, but there's something troubling." Jackson frowned. "What is it?" The doctor picked up the clipboard and tapped it lightly. "We have been talking to her, asking questions to find out if she has someone to take her home, but it seems she has nobody." Jackson's heart clenched. "Nobody." The doctor shook his head. "She told us she has no family here in the city. No parents, no relatives, no home. She has been alone, wandering the streets. If she leaves here, she has nowhere to go." Jackson inhaled deeply, his chest tightening. He closed his eyes briefly, picturing the frail little girl, weak from hunger, lost and abandoned. He couldn't imagine sending her back to that life. She had already suffered too much. Finally, he opened his eyes and said firmly, Then she won't go back to the streets. The doctor raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? Jackson squared his shoulders. I will take her home with me. The doctor blinked in surprise. Are you sure about that? Jackson nodded without hesitation. Yes. I can't just leave her to suffer. The streets are dangerous, especially for a child. She needs a safe place, food, and someone to take care of her. The doctor studied Jackson for a moment, then smiled. You have a kind heart, Mr. Jackson. Not many people would do this. Jackson shook his head. It's not about kindness, doctor. It's about doing what is right. That little girl has been through enough. She deserves a second chance. Jackson pulled into the driveway of his family home, his heart lighter than it had been in days. He glanced at Elizabeth, who sat quietly in the passenger seat, staring at the big house in front of her. This is home, Jackson said gently. Elizabeth swallowed hard. She had never been in such a big house before. Was this really going to be her home? Jackson smiled. Come on, let's go inside. He stepped out of the car and opened the door for her. Slowly, Elizabeth followed him, her small hands clutching the edges of her dress. The moment they stepped inside, Madame Rebecca came out of the living room, her eyes lighting up when she saw Jackson. My son, you're back. But then her gaze shifted to the small girl beside him. Her body froze, her eyes widened in pure shock. Jackson frowned at his mother's reaction. Mama, what's wrong? Madame Rebecca's hands trembled as she pointed at Elizabeth. Jackson, this girl. Elizabeth stood still, confused by Madame Rebecca's expression, then tears filled the older woman's eyes as she whispered in disbelief. Jackson, this is Elizabeth, the little girl who saved my life. Jackson's entire body went stiff, his breath caught in his throat. He turned to Elizabeth in shock. What? Madame Rebecca nodded quickly, her hands still shaking. This is the same girl, Jackson. She and her grandmother saved me when I was shot in the village. Jackson looked at Elizabeth with wide eyes. He couldn't believe it. All this time he had been trying to save a little girl, and it turned out she had already saved his mother's life before. Madame Rebecca suddenly rushed forward, kneeling in front of Elizabeth. Her hands cupped the girl's face as tears streamed down her cheeks. Thank God I found you, she sobbed. Elizabeth was too shocked to move. She turned to Jackson, her voice small and hesitant. Sir, is this your mother? Jackson nodded slowly, still trying to process everything. Yes, Elizabeth, this is my mother. Elizabeth looked back at Madame Rebecca, her lips trembling. Sir, your mother was the woman we helped in the village. Jackson swallowed hard. Yes, Elizabeth, you saved her life. Madame Rebecca pulled her into a tight hug, holding her like a lost daughter. I looked for you, my child. I wanted to find you and take care of you, but I was too late. And now God has brought you back to me. The next day, Madame Rebecca sat with Elizabeth and gently asked, My child, tell me everything. How did you end up in the city? Elizabeth lowered her head and with a heavy heart told her everything. How her grandmother died, how her mother threw her out because of her husband, and how the man she thought was her father rejected her. Madame Rebecca's eyes filled with sorrow. She pulled Elizabeth into a warm embrace and said, Don't worry, my child. This is now your home. I am your mother now, and I will take care of you. Elizabeth's eyes welled with tears as she held on to Madame Rebecca. For the first time in a long time, she felt truly safe. It was a bright afternoon, and Madame Rebecca and Elizabeth walked through the supermarket, picking out groceries. Elizabeth was happy, happier than she had been in a long time. She was finally in a place where she felt loved and safe. Madame Rebecca smiled as she placed a few items in the shopping cart. Elizabeth, my child, do you want anything special? Elizabeth looked around shyly. No, Ma, I am okay. Madame Rebecca chuckled. Are you sure? You deserve a treat. Elizabeth hesitated, then pointed at a small box of chocolates. Maybe that one, Ma. Madame Rebecca picked it up and placed it in the cart. You don't have to be shy, my dear. You are my daughter now. Elizabeth beamed, feeling warm inside. Just as they were about to move to the next aisle, a loud cry filled the air. Elizabeth, my daughter, please forgive me. Elizabeth froze. Madame Rebecca turned quickly, surprised by the voice. A woman ran toward them, her clothes wrinkled, her face filled with tears. She fell to her knees in front of Elizabeth, crying uncontrollably. Elizabeth's heart pounded. It was her mother. She looked different, tired, pale, and weak. Madame Rebecca frowned. "Who are you, woman?" The woman wiped her tears and looked up. "My name is Anita. I am Elizabeth's mother." Madame Rebecca's eyes widened in shock. She turned to Elizabeth, who stood still, her hands shaking. Elizabeth's lips trembled as she whispered, "Mama." Anita nodded, sobbing, "Yes, my daughter, it's me. Please forgive me." Madame Rebecca folded her arms, her expression turning cold. "So you are the woman who abandoned this innocent child. You threw her out like trash, and now you are here crying." Anita broke down in tears. "Ma, it was the devil. The devil made me do it. I was foolish. I chose a man over my own daughter, and now that man has left me for another woman." Madame Rebecca's anger flared. "How could you be so heartless? You rejected your own child for a man who never truly loved you." Anita wept bitterly, holding her head. "I was stupid. I am a terrible mother. I regret everything. Please, help me beg Elizabeth. I don't deserve her forgiveness, but I am begging her." Elizabeth stood frozen, tears filling her eyes. She had dreamed of this moment, her mother coming back for her. But now that it was happening, she didn't know how to feel. Madame Rebecca shook her head. "And the man you sent Elizabeth to, the one you claimed was her father, did you know that he also rejected her?" Anita sobbed harder. "I lied. He is not her real father. I don't even know who her real father is. I was young and foolish, and now my past is haunting me. I have lost everything. I am homeless, jobless. I sleep in my friend's small apartment. I have nothing left, Ma. Nothing." Madame Rebecca sighed deeply, shaking her head. "You are a selfish woman. You hurt your own child in ways that cannot be undone." Anita wept, grabbing her own hair, pulling at it. "I know, I am wicked. I don't deserve to be a mother. I hate myself for what I did." She turned to Elizabeth, her voice breaking. "My daughter, my precious child, I don't deserve your love, but please find it in your heart to forgive me. I was blind, but now I see my mistake." Elizabeth wiped her tears, her heart aching. She had waited so long to hear her mother apologize, but the pain of rejection was still fresh. Madame Rebecca sighed and looked at Anita. Despite her anger, she couldn't ignore the suffering in the woman's eyes. "Stand up," she said firmly. Anita looked at her in shock. "Ma." "I said stand up," Madame Rebecca repeated. Anita slowly got to her feet, still crying. Madame Rebecca took a deep breath and said, "I will talk to my son. He will find you a job. You need to rebuild your life." Anita gasped, "Ma, you will help me." Madame Rebecca nodded. "Not because you deserve it, but because of Elizabeth. She still loves you, despite everything you did." Anita fell to her knees again, holding Madame Rebecca's hands. "Thank you, Ma. Thank you so much. May God bless you." Madame Rebecca gently pulled her hands away. "Don't thank me yet. I will collect your phone number and call you after speaking to my son." Anita nodded quickly. "Yes, Ma. Here is my number." She quickly wrote it down and gave it to Madame Rebecca. Elizabeth stared at her mother, emotions swirling inside her. She wanted to hug her, but she also wanted to ask why she didn't love her enough in the first place. Anita turned to Elizabeth again, her hands trembling. "My daughter, I am so grateful for another chance. I love you so much, and I am sorry for everything." Elizabeth opened her mouth, but no words came out. Madame Rebecca placed a hand on her shoulder. "Come, my child, let's go home." Elizabeth gave her mother one last look before turning away. Anita watched as her daughter walked away with the woman who had become her mother. Tears rolled down her face as she whispered, "I lost her, and I don't know if I will ever get her back." When they got home, Elizabeth sat quietly on the couch, her hands resting on her lap. She had been thinking a lot about what happened at the supermarket, about her mother's sudden return, her cries, her regret. But Elizabeth knew one thing: she never wanted to go back to that woman again. She turned to Madame Rebecca, her eyes filled with emotion. "Mama, I don't ever want to go back to my mother. Never in my lifetime." Madame Rebecca looked at her, surprised by the firmness in her voice. "My child," she said gently, "you don't have to. I will never let that happen. You are my daughter now, okay? Elizabeth's eyes softened. She felt safe, truly safe. Madame Rebecca smiled warmly, and then, in a light-hearted tone, she added, Elizabeth, you look so much like me. Elizabeth's face lit up with a smile. Yes, Grandma wanted to tell you earlier today. They both laughed, the warmth of happiness filling the room. Madame Rebecca pulled Elizabeth into a gentle hug. You are mine now, my child, and I will always protect you. Elizabeth rested her head against her chest, feeling at home. After a moment, she looked up excitedly. Mama, when is Grandpa coming back? I want to see him. Madame Rebecca chuckled. In a few days, my dear. He traveled for a medical checkup, but don't worry, Grandpa can't wait to meet you. Elizabeth smiled brightly. I can't wait to meet him too. Madame Rebecca kissed her forehead. He will love you just as much as I do. That evening, Jackson arrived home, looking exhausted from a long day. As soon as he stepped into the house, his mother, Madame Rebecca, called him to sit with her in the living room. Jackson, my son, something happened today at the supermarket, she began, her voice serious. Jackson raised an eyebrow. What is it, Mama? She hesitated for a moment, then said, Today at the supermarket, Elizabeth's mother showed up. Jackson frowned. That woman? What did she want? Madame Rebecca sighed deeply. She was crying, begging Elizabeth for forgiveness. She said she was foolish to choose a man over her daughter, and now that man has left her for another woman. She has lost everything. She is homeless and jobless. Jackson scoffed. So now that she has nothing, she suddenly remembers she has a daughter. I was angry too, my son, Madame Rebecca admitted, but I also felt pity for her. She has made terrible mistakes, but she is still a human being. Jackson shook his head. Mama, you have a kind heart, but some people don't deserve help. Madame Rebecca took his hand. My son, please, just help her. Give her a job. Even if it's a cleaning job, at least let her have something to survive. Jackson sighed, rubbing his forehead. There is no vacancy in any of my companies, Mama. Madame Rebecca squeezed his hand. Please, my son, do it for me. Do it for Elizabeth. Jackson exhaled deeply, thinking. After a moment, he finally nodded. Fine, tell her to come tomorrow. His mother smiled, relieved. Thank you, my son. God will bless you. After Jackson left, Madame Rebecca immediately picked up her phone and called Anita. When Anita answered, her voice was shaky. Hello, Ma. Madame Rebecca didn't waste time. Anita, I have good news. My son has agreed to give you a job. Go to his office early tomorrow morning. Here is his company address. Anita gasped. Oh, Ma, thank you so much. I don't know how to thank you. God bless you, Ma. Madame Rebecca sighed. Just make sure you don't disappoint me. I promise, Ma. I will be there early, Anita said excitedly. The next morning, Jackson sat in his office, focused on work. He had completely forgotten about the job his mother had asked him to give Anita. To him, she was just another woman who had made bad choices. There was a knock on his door. Come in, he said without looking up. The door opened, and when Jackson finally raised his head, his eyes widened in shock. Anita stood at the door. She froze the moment she saw him. Her breath caught in her throat, and for a few seconds she couldn't move. Jackson's face darkened immediately. You. Anita's hands trembled as she held onto her bag. She had come for a job, not expecting to see the man from her past. Jackson stood up slowly, his eyes filled with disbelief. Anita, what are you doing here? Anita swallowed hard. I came for the job. Madame Rebecca said I should meet with you. Jackson clenched his fists. Of all the people in the world, my mother had to send you. Anita lowered her head. I didn't know you were her son. Jackson scoffed. So life has brought you to this point. You threw your own daughter away, and now you're here begging for help. Anita's eyes filled with tears. I know I made mistakes, Jackson, but I need this job. Jackson shook his head. You are a selfish woman. You abandoned your child, lied about her father, and now you come here, expecting me to help you. Anita wiped her tears and tried to compose herself. I regret everything, Jackson. But I don't have time for insults. I came here for a job. Are you giving it to me or not? Jackson narrowed his eyes. He wanted to throw her out, but something in him wouldn't let him. After a long silence, he sighed. I'll help you, but not because you deserve it. I'll help you because of Elizabeth. Anita's lips trembled. Thank you, Jackson. I promise I won't let you down. Jackson pulled out an appointment letter from his desk, signed it, and handed it to her. You will resume at one of my companies, he said firmly. Not here. I don't want to see you around me, Anita. I'm sorry. Anita quickly grabbed the letter, her heart pounding. I don't mind. Thank you so much, Jackson. She turned to leave, but just as she reached the door, she stopped. Without turning around, she said softly, Jackson, I think Elizabeth is your daughter. Jackson's head snapped up. What? Anita took a deep breath and finally turned to face him. I said, I think Elizabeth is your daughter. Jackson's face twisted with anger. You think? He let out a bitter laugh. You are not even sure. How foolish can you be, Anita? You had a child, and you don't even know who her father is. Anita looked away, ashamed. I was young and stupid, Jackson. I made mistakes. But when I look at Elizabeth, I see you in her. I truly believe she is yours. Jackson clenched his jaw, his mind racing. And you're just realizing this now? After everything she has been through? Anita's voice broke. I was afraid to say it before. But now I have nothing left to hide. Jackson exhaled sharply, rubbing his forehead. I don't even know what to say to you right now. Anita looked at him one last time. Life is strange, Jackson. Who would have thought we would meet again like this? Without waiting for a response, she turned and walked out of his office, leaving Jackson standing there, his mind in turmoil. That evening, Jackson sat in the living room, deep in thought. Madam Rebecca noticed his silence and frowned. My son, what is wrong? You have been quiet since you came home. Jackson sighed heavily, rubbing his forehead. Mama, I was shocked when I saw Elizabeth's mother today. Madam Rebecca looked at him curiously. Why? I know you didn't expect to see her, but why do you look so troubled? Jackson hesitated, then looked straight at his mother. Mama, I had something with Anita a very long time ago. Madam Rebecca's eyes widened. What do you mean, Jackson? Jackson took a deep breath. Years ago, when we were much younger, Anita tricked me. She had always been obsessed with me, but I never liked her. That night she got me drunk, and I made a mistake. Madam Rebecca gasped. Oh my God! Jackson, are you saying? Jackson nodded. Mama, today Anita told me something shocking. She thinks I am Elizabeth's father. Madam Rebecca sat up straight, holding her chest. What a world! Jackson, I knew it. I knew it from the moment I saw Elizabeth. That girl looks so much like me. I said it before, and now everything is making sense. Jackson exhaled, shaking his head. Mama, I was so angry when she said it. How can she think? She's not even sure. She sent Elizabeth to another man without even knowing. Madam Rebecca shook her head in disbelief. That woman is truly foolish. She abandoned her own daughter, lied about her father, and now she suddenly remembers you. Jackson clenched his fists. Exactly. That's why I didn't believe her immediately. But Mama, if there is even a small chance that Elizabeth is mine, I need to know the truth. Madam Rebecca's face softened. You are right, my son. A child should never have to live without knowing where they truly belong. Jackson sighed. I have already sent for a DNA test. The results should be out in a few days. Madam Rebecca smiled and held his hands. No matter what the results say, that little girl is ours now. But Jackson, I have a strong feeling she is your daughter. Jackson let out a deep breath, nodding. I just hope I'm ready for whatever the results say. Madam Rebecca squeezed his hand. No matter what, we will stand by Elizabeth. She has suffered too much already. It's time she finds real love and a family that will never leave her again. Jackson leaned back, staring at the ceiling, his heart racing. If Elizabeth was truly his daughter, everything in his life was about to change forever. A few days later, Jackson received the DNA test results. His hands trembled as he opened the envelope. His heart skipped a beat when he saw the results. 99.9% match. He was Elizabeth's father. Tears welled up in his eyes as he held the paper. His heart ached as he thought about everything Elizabeth had been through. her suffering, her rejection, the pain she endured. His own daughter had been abandoned and left to struggle while he had been living his life, unaware of her existence. He rushed home, determined to see her. When Jackson entered the house, he saw Elizabeth sitting on the couch, playing with a toy Madame Rebecca had bought for her. She looked up and smiled at him. "Good evening, sir." Jackson's heart squeezed at the word sir. She had no idea. He took slow steps toward her, then suddenly pulled her into a tight hug. Elizabeth froze, surprised. "Sir," tears fell from Jackson's eyes as he hugged her tighter. His body shook with emotion. "My child. My daughter." "I am so sorry," he whispered. Elizabeth's eyes widened in confusion. "Sir, what do you mean?" Jackson pulled back, cupping her small face in his hands, his eyes red with tears. "Elizabeth, I just found out the truth. I am your father." Elizabeth's heart stopped. "What?" Jackson nodded, fresh tears running down his face. "I am your real father, my child. I didn't know. If I had known, I would have looked for you. I would have protected you, but instead you suffered. You suffered so much. And I wasn't there." Elizabeth felt her own tears fall. You are really my father." Jackson hugged her again, holding her like he would never let go. "Yes, my daughter. You are my blood, and from today I will never let you suffer again." Madame Rebecca wiped her own tears as she watched them. "My son, you have found what was missing in your life." Elizabeth clung to Jackson, sobbing into his chest. "I thought I had no one, sir. I mean, Papa." Jackson cried harder when he heard the word Papa. "My child, you have me. You have your grandmother. You have a family now." That night the house was filled with tears, not of sadness, but of love and healing. 2 weeks later, Jackson's father returned from his medical checkup. He had already heard the wonderful news about Elizabeth and couldn't wait to meet his granddaughter. The moment he stepped into the house, his eyes searched for her. "Where is my granddaughter?" he asked in a joyful voice. Elizabeth shyly stepped forward. "Good afternoon, sir." Her grandfather's eyes softened as he looked at her. He knelt down and spread his arms. "Come here, my child." Elizabeth hesitated for a moment before running into his arms. "My beautiful granddaughter," he said, kissing her forehead. "You look just like my wife when she was young." Elizabeth giggled, feeling warm and safe. Her grandfather stood up and announced, "Since I just found out I have a granddaughter, I must do something special for her." Elizabeth looked up at him. "What is it, Grandpa?" He smiled. "We are going to Disneyland in Paris for a holiday." Elizabeth's mouth dropped open. "Disneyland?" "Yes, my dear," her grandfather said happily. "We are all going, and we are going to spoil you, my child." Elizabeth turned to Jackson, unsure if it was real. "Papa, are we really going?" Jackson smiled and nodded. "Yes, my princess. Grandpa wants to give you the best time of your life." Elizabeth jumped up in excitement. "Thank you, Grandpa. Thank you so much." Her grandfather laughed and hugged her again. "You are part of this family, and we will show you what it means to be truly loved." Madame Rebecca wiped her happy tears as she watched them. Elizabeth had gone through so much pain, but now she had everything she had ever wanted. A home, a family, and a love she never thought she would have. For the first time in her life, she knew she belonged. And she was finally happy. Dear viewers, what lessons did you take away from this dramatic tale? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed the story, give us a thumbs up, share it with friends, and hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss out on our latest updates. Thanks for watching and stay blessed.